for that law. I mean, let's have that law here. That's something with the prison-industrial complex where their greed can become revealed. So we're winning on these battles. We're winning. We're winning. Not winning. We're not winning. We are making progress. And I'll tell you, on the marijuana thing now, I think you know some of this. The latest public opinion polls now show that over 40% of Americans support making marijuana legal. And that it's close to 50% or over among Democrats, independents, people in the age of 30, and a growing number of the western states. I don't know the latest stats here. Right? I also know this. Language matters. I avoid, as much as possible, using the word legalize. My reading of the surveys is that when you ask people if they support legalizing marijuana, maybe 30% will say yes. If you say, how about making marijuana legal, drop that hard Z, it goes to 35%. Something about that Z. I don't know. Like a dagger into people or something like that. And then if you say, how about treating marijuana like alcohol, as taxed and controlled and regulated, trying to keep kids out of trouble? 41%. Same question. Dramatically different answers. Now, I can't control what the media is going to put on the cover, but I do know that language matters. That I know, even though I use legalize, and I've used it many times tonight, I use it in shorthand, I know that when I'm doing our press releases in the media, I try to avoid that Z. I try to talk about making marijuana legal. I try to talk about treating it like alcohol. Because I think, now, I should make an exception. When I'm talking about medical marijuana, I do use legalize. Because I figure the public already so strongly supports the legalization of medical marijuana that using the Z word with medical marijuana is a way of diffusing, of sort of neutralizing it a bit in an environment where people are a little more accepting to hear it. But it's playing with the language in that way that I think is pivotal. Governor Schwarzenegger, a few months ago, I think we need a debate on legalizing drugs. I mean, why? Because the state budget deficits are going off the charts. My governor, Patterson in New York, the same thing. The Attorney General of Arizona, conservative guy, Terry Goddard, his father was a governor, he wants to be a governor. He comes out last Christmas and he says, we got to talk about legalizing marijuana. Why? Because he says, I don't know if he's right or not, that the Mexican drug gangs are making over half the money from the marijuana business. Change is happening. Obama. You know, we've now had 3 presidents in a row who smoked marijuana, right? The first one smoked, but said he didn't inhale. The second one wouldn't say until some old friend outed him. He did it, you know. Obama gets asked, so did you inhale? And he goes, yeah, many times, and wasn't that the point? That's the guy in the White House now. Now, it doesn't mean he's not going to be a hypocrite, because the definition of a politician usually means you got to be a hypocrite, right? I mean, but and it means that when he's asked the question, he's not going to step out on that one, not with everything else on his plate, right? Right? I understand that. The members of Congress now, I mean, the congressional leadership now, it's not just Democrat as opposed to Republican. Is that among the Democrats in power on Capitol Hill, they are more sympathetic to us than the average Democrat. Nancy Pelosi from San Francisco. Let me say this again. The Speaker of the House, right? What is it? Third or fourth in line for the third in line for the presidency? The most, third in line, right? Right? She's from San Francisco. Let me say this again. The Speaker of the House is from San Francisco, and she ain't Dianne Feinstein, right? She gets it. I stood up at some Democratic event last month, and David Axelrod was there, and I kind of challenged him publicly. I said, so when is Obama going to move on this thing? And I knew he wasn't going to say anything, and he didn't say anything valuable. But Pelosi's sitting there, and afterwards she grabs my hand, she goes, I know you're right. Now, she didn't say, I know you're right about legalizing marijuana, but when she was saying privately, and George Miller, the chair of education, Barney Frank, he's no longer just a gay congressman from Massachusetts, he's chair of the Financial Services Committee. John Conyers chair of the Judiciary Committee, Henry Waxman chairing another key committee. You know who's chairing the subcommittee with oversight of the drug czar's office? Dennis Kucinich. It's a new world. So, there's momentum right now. Now, here's what I want to say. I mean, you pick up this week, Fortune magazine, the Businessman's magazine, the cover has got, what's her name, Sarah Jessica Parker from Weeds on the cover, and a huge, huge story on how medical marijuana is showing the way towards ending marijuana prohibition. A sympathetic, really detailed, good story. New York Magazine this week, or one of our, million circulation, big story, written by a guy who describes himself as a pothead. Writing, but 10 years ago, a guy who wasn't a pothead writing 10 years ago, now it's a pothead, right? AM New York, our free paper in New York, once again, marijuana arrest in New York, marijuana decrim, This week, Texas Monthly, pick it up. Big article on legalizing marijuana. Picked up Variety magazine, Hollywood magazine today, and what do you see? They're talking about how, not just in cable TV, but in mainstream TV, more and more marijuana is just showing up as kind of part of the scenery. It's not even about this, right? So we are moving there. We are moving. But I don't forget, we got 70% of Americans saying that marijuana should be legal for medical purposes. And we're still fighting tooth and nail, state by state, just to fight this. So the only way we're going to win this thing, it's going to be with persistence. It's going to be by struggling. It's going to be by organizing and mobilizing. When Tom and Angela got up there, they need every one of yours help. They need every one of you to commit some time, if you can spare the money, to be out there some way. If you want to stay off the grid and be quiet, just find a way. Make the contribution. Do something. Be active. Write the letter to the newspaper. Call talk radio. Move a neighbor, right? Be there. And also, be smart. Be really smart. One of the things we did at Drug Policy Alliance years ago, we started a project called Safety First, right? Our model was just say no, but we spelled it K-N-O-W. And our model was that we want to have honest drug education with young people, right? And what does that mean? It means that our first message to young people around drugs is don't do drugs. And our second message to young people around drugs is don't do drugs. And our third message is, but if you do, there are some things I want you to know. Because my bottom line, as your parent who loves you to death, is not ultimately whether you did or you didn't. My bottom line as your parent is whether or not you're going to come home safely at the end of the night and grow up and make me healthy grandkids. That's my bottom line.